This week, the cyber world was rocked by a pretty surprising announcement.
This morning, the U.S., Britain, and also Australia have amassed and sanctioned a senior Russian leader of the world's largest ransomware gang, LockBit. Here he is right here, Dmitry Khoroshev.
The picture went viral. It was of a young Russian with blue eyes, close-cropped hair, and big biceps. And he was smiling sheepishly into the camera in one photo and was leaning against a pool table in another. And it wouldn't be an exaggeration to say law enforcement was crowing about their big reveal.
Through the meticulous work of our investigators and prosecutors, we have unmasked the man behind LockbitSupp.
This, they said, was the man behind the torrent of ransomware attacks we'd been seeing the past couple of years. And what was LockbitSupp's reaction when we asked him about it?
I'm very interested in how the FBI decided I was Dmitry Khoroshev. How did they find this person? Based on what facts? Where is the proof?
From Recorded Future News, I'm Dina Temple-Raston, and this is Click Here's Mic Drop. Today, we have an exclusive interview with the man himself, LockbitSupp. He's the alleged leader of a ransomware gang that has terrorized the world for the past 5 years. And you probably wouldn't be surprised to know he's denying everything. Stay with us. I'm Dina Temple-Raston, and this is Click Here's Mic Drop. The last time we were in touch with LockbitSupp was a couple of months ago, shortly after police in the UK had announced that a coalition of international law enforcement agencies had infiltrated LockBit's systems, had grabbed its servers, and had even taken the whole operation down. And back then, LockbitSupp seemed to just shrug it off.
No one can stop me. Now I will just make more noise.
We got his contact details from a helpful blog post he'd written. He was looking for affiliates, people who wanted to work with him. And he told them to just reach out directly through an encrypted app. So we did. And we started by asking him where he was when the name and pictures started to go public.
I was in the office at my workplace when they announced Dmitry's name.
These are his answers, translated from Russian, but not his voice.
I find out about this guy on the site of my former blog, the one the FBI had covertly stolen back in February.
LockbitSupp told us he doesn't know this Dmitry Khoroshev. He says he doesn't even think their paths have ever crossed in the dark web either. And then he wrote,
The FBI got it wrong.
To understand why the great unmasking this week is such a big deal, you need to know that the LockBit group has been one of the most prolific ransomware gangs the world has ever known. Working with affiliates around the world, LockBit is thought to have extorted some $500 million since 2019. And its victims run the gambit from the UK's Royal Mail Service, to hospitals, to the state-owned Industrial and Commercial Bank of China.
We attack the whole world, everyone who comes into our hands.
The February takedown was more than just a seizure of servers. Law enforcement officials walked out with names and dates and de-encryption keys, and even LockbitSupp admitted this week that they'd gotten a lot of his stuff.
They have the source code, and because they have that, they have gained access to a list of our partners. But I have now eliminated this shortcoming in the platform. Every time they take aim at me, I get stronger.
Maybe. But one of the reasons he could do that was because LockbitSupp remained an enigma. They were arresting some other members of the group, but not him. So he told us all he's been doing since February is working, hatching new plans.
I have new attacks, more attacks, new updates.
And the fallout from the news this week? Not a big deal, he says, because he's not the guy law enforcement claims he is. He's not 31-year-old Russian national Dmitry Khoroshev. He doesn't even live in southwestern Russia. It's all some mistake, he says.
I made my assessment that Dmitry is LockbitSupp based on a tip.
John DiMaggio is chief strategist at Analyst One, and he's been tracking LockbitSupp for years.
Dmitry was linked originally to a domain that was used in early LockBit attacks.
And from there, he began cross-referencing both open source and dark web information to piece together a little bio of this guy, Dmitry. And there were some interesting parallels. Among other things, Dmitry has registered a few companies that build websites in Russia. Probably not a coincidence.
We had primary addresses associated with what appeared to be legitimate things, and then I started finding, usernames and passwords and accounts that I was able to pivot on, and I was finding...
He found other accounts associated with Dmitry that were a little suspicious.
Some of them were associated with malicious cybercrime activity.
A 2022 breach of Yandex, Russia's answer to Google, revealed some of his personal information, including where he lives, allegedly in a modest apartment about 300 miles south of Moscow. Apparently, he likes to play pool, which explains the picture that went public. Again, LockbitSupp says, totally wrong guy.
I always thought that the United States is a rule of law state, that without evidence, you can't accuse an innocent person. I was wrong. The FBI, like all law enforcement officers, lie and think only about their personal careers.
John DiMaggio says he never found the proverbial smoking gun, specific accounts or infrastructure that tied LockBit directly to Dmitry. That's why he didn't publish his findings until law enforcement went public this week. But he says it can't just be a wild coincidence that the guy he was looking into is the guy they ended up indicting.
But I also don't believe that it's coincidence that I was onto this person and you have multiple governments and law enforcement agencies that just happen to be also looking into the same person, and their assessment is with high confidence. They wouldn't indict or place sanctions against someone unless they had high confidence.
The online name LockbitSupp is short for LockBit Support. And according to law enforcement, since the LockBit gang came on the scene in 2019, it has been linked with some 2,000 ransomware attacks. They crack into networks, encrypt and steal data, and then demand a ransom to give it back. LockbitSupp is thought to have created the group's point-and-click malware and built its leak site, where they often post stolen data if ransoms aren't paid. What made LockBit different from other groups was its business model. It would license the LockBit code to affiliates who would do the attacks themselves and then give LockBit a cut, usually 20% of whatever they got in ransom. Researchers who follow LockbitSupp have said for years that he was a white male from Russia, likely in his 40s. Dmitry Khoroshev is in his early 30s.
The FBI is bluffing.
This is from LockBit's Out of the Office message.
And I feel sorry for the real Dmitry. And he's going to get screwed for my sins.
He actually used a word that was a little bit more colorful than screwed. Whoever he is, Khoroshev is now a guy who has been sanctioned by the US, UK, and Australia. The Justice Department also unsealed a 26-count indictment against him that includes charges like conspiracy to commit fraud, extortion, and hacking. Taken together, they carry a maximum penalty of 185 years in prison. DOJ also said that there was a $10 million reward for information that might lead to his arrest. We asked LockbitSupp about whether he'd rather spend time in a US or a Russian prison, and he had a one-word answer.
Russia.
And did he have any message for the world, we asked?
Join my affiliate program and get rich with me. The goal is the same as always, to attack 1 million companies. The pressure from law enforcement only motivates me and makes me work harder.
From Recorded Future News, this has been Click Here's Mic Drop. It was written, edited, and produced by Sean Powers, Darina Antonuk, Lou Olkowski, and me, Dina Temple-Raston. We'll be back on Tuesday with a new episode of Click Here. Have a great weekend.